Okay, picture this. A wall of trees so huge, so vast, it stretches across an entire continent, and you can see it from space. Sounds like sci-fi, right? Well, it's not. It's the Great Green Wall, honestly one of the most ambitious and inspiring projects on the planet. But, and this is a big one, as we're about to see, even the biggest dreams can run smack into reality.
Just look at the sheer scale of that vision. When it was launched back in 2007 by the African Union, the idea was to create this 8,000-kilometer-long tapestry of life right across Africa. And this was never just about stopping the Sahara from expanding. No, it was way bigger than that. It was about creating a green ribbon of hope, of jobs, and of real opportunity for millions of people.
An incredible dream, for sure. But by 2020, more than 10 years in, a really tough question started to hang in the air. Was this massive effort actually working? Was the Great Green Wall still growing, or was it about to hit a wall of its very own?
So let's start with just how big this dream was. The goals for 2030 were just staggering. Restore 100 million hectares of degraded land. I mean, that's roughly the size of Spain and France put together, and create 10 million green jobs in the process. This was never just about planting trees. It was about totally transforming economies and lives.
And, to be fair, they were making some real progress. A report in 2020 showed that 20 million hectares of land had been restored, and over 350,000 jobs had been created. On the surface, those numbers sound pretty good, right? Like, hey, success!
But here's where that context is so important. That 20 million hectares, that took over a decade. To actually hit that 2030 goal, they needed to be restoring almost half that amount, 8.2 million hectares every single year. The math just wasn't adding up. The pace was way too slow. That dream was falling seriously behind schedule.
So why the slowdown? Well, that same 2020 report really dug in and pinpointed the major roadblocks that were basically holding this amazing project back from reaching its full potential.
So this UN report boiled it down to 4 major issues. First, weak governance. A classic case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing across all these different countries and agencies. Then there was the money. Not just a lack of it, but the funding that did come in was totally unreliable. How can you plan for the long term with that? Third, the monitoring was just a mess. It's like trying to build a house when everyone's using a different ruler. And of course, there were just the massive nuts and bolts technical problems of a project this big. And this table really shows you how all these problems were connected. Just look at the columns for monitoring and funding. Those 2 problems had this huge domino effect, messing with every single part of the project, from managing the actual land to trying to grow local businesses. The whole system was crying out for an overhaul.
So facing this tough reality, the international community realized the project didn't just need more cash. It needed what you could call a booster shot, a whole new approach designed to tackle these deep, systemic issues and get the Great Green Wall back on its feet. And that was the birth of the Great Green Wall Accelerator.
And believe me, that booster shot came with a huge injection of capital. At the One Planet Summit in early 2021, global partners pledged an incredible $19 billion to speed things up between 2021 and 2025. That was a massive signal that the world was definitely not giving up on this dream. All this new funding was structured around 5 main pillars, covering everything from restoring ecosystems to building up climate-resilient businesses. But this massive new pledge brought a new problem. How do you make sure all this money actually gets the job done? Well, that's exactly where the accelerator came in.
So what exactly is this accelerator? Well, think of it as a temporary UN-hosted strike team. Their job wasn't to grab a shovel and plant trees themselves. Nope. Their job was to fix the plumbing behind the scenes. They were there to create one single system for tracking progress, to figure out where all that new money was going, to play matchmaker between the right partners, and, this is a big one, to help countries create projects that were actually bankable. The kind that donors would get excited about funding.
So the big question, did the booster shot work? Well, in 2023, an independent review decided to look under the hood of the accelerator to see what this new approach had actually pulled off. And what they found really sets the stage for the next chapter of this story.
Okay, so to really get what the review found, you have to understand the 2 main players here. On one side, you have the Pan-African Agency. They're the permanent, African-led owners of the whole project, but they were seen as kind of struggling. And on the other side, you have the accelerator, the temporary fix, the support crew brought in to help out, track the money, and iron out all the operational wrinkles. And what the review found was that, the accelerator was actually making real, tangible progress on its key tasks. It was doing a good job of building these national coalitions, getting governments, NGOs, and private companies all pulling in the same direction. It was also giving countries the support they desperately needed to turn their ideas into actual projects that could get funded. And it was making progress on that super important monitoring platform, so everyone could finally track everything the same way.
But the review also made a really critical point, and this quote just nails it. The accelerator can support progress, but not deliver it. In other words, it was a catalyst, a temporary support system. It could help fix the engine and hand over the map, but it couldn't actually drive the car. That job, ultimately, had to go back to the project's permanent owners.
And that leads us to the final and most important question in this whole saga. The accelerator was always meant to be temporary. Its clock is ticking. So what happens when this booster shot finally wears off? The timeline here is crystal clear. The accelerator kicked off in 2021, and its mission is set to end in 2025. That deadline is coming up fast. The whole plan was always to hand over all these new tools and systems to the permanent Pan-African Agency.
And here we are at the heart of what that review found. Because even though this temporary fix seems to be working, a lot of people involved are worried. They have serious doubts. Is the permanent Pan-African Agency really, truly ready to take the baton and keep this incredibly complex work going after the accelerator is gone?
And that leaves us with a real cliffhanger, doesn't it? The Great Green Wall got this second chance, this massive shot of cash and a special team to sort out its biggest problems. But the real test, the final exam, is still ahead. Can the project's permanent leaders actually grab that baton and keep the momentum going? Or is this incredible, world-changing dream going to hit that same wall all over again? I mean, the future of this great green hope really hangs in the balance.